Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third episode of the CouchCast charity podcast, where today we're very lucky to be joined by a very special guest, Miss Jodie Steele.
Hiya!
Jodie.
Hiya, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the podcast and volunteering your time. How are you?
I'm good. Very busy, believe it or not. Extremely
Very
busy. It's
Even
odd.
during lockdown, it's non-stop, still going.
Yeah, I'm working as a carer at the moment for people with learning disabilities. Yeah, so yes, on top of that, lots of different things. After this, I've got another Zoom. I've got a recording session to do tonight. I've got things to video. Like I'm going to be up till like midnight. Oh, bless Liam, he's just made my dinner for me. Literally, this is like the only time. Been teaching all day, and so literally, I'm either teaching or caring. I'm very grateful to be busy though. Like I wouldn't change it. And I know that we need to stay inside right now. Lives matter most. Yeah. So it's all good. I mean, it's not all good because coronavirus sucks, but you know what I mean.
It sucks, but we'll get through it. We just got to stay.
Yeah, we will.
So we've got a few questions here for you.
Amazing. Hit me whilst I nibble my sausages.
So the first question is, how did you first get into theatre and acting?
So I wasn't really into it much when I was a teenager. I was more into my sport, but I really loved singing. So I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. But when I went to sixth form, so like 16, 17, I took performing arts because I knew I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I didn't know how to do it. I was totally lost from Basingstoke with, nothing going for me really. And it was my teachers on that course at QMC, Queen Mary's College, who persuaded me to audition for drama school. And that's actually how it happened. And I did. And yeah, weird, huh?
That was the start of it all?
Yeah, it really was. And then actually I turned my place down at GSA for a year. It got deferred because I decided then, once I'd got in, that actually I should try and go for music college. And I did. I went to ACM for a year. Then GSA deferred my place. So then I went there the year after without having to re-audition. Mental!
Fantastic.
Yeah. Cool.
Very handy. So did you have any kind of role models or special influences growing up?
My dad has always been the person who I listened to. I run my own business now with JSA in my school, and I take all my kind of inspiration and knowledge from him and his work ethic and how, he just the way he is as a human, and he's so knowledgeable. That's not really me. I wish I was knowledgeable. Well, my dad. And yeah, he's the guy that I'm like, well, whatever my dad says goes. Do you know what I mean? And that's obviously some people will be like, well, no, what he's saying is wrong. But to me, whatever he says, that's it. Like, that's right. So yeah, my dad's my biggest kind of inspiration and person I kind of listen to the most. But in terms of like people who are famous, Beyonce, I wanted to be Beyonce.
Don't we all?
Oh yeah.
It's good that your dad was so supportive though, because you do have the backbone of getting people onto these sort of things.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes parents, I find this a lot from teaching, that they question it and they're like, oh no, this isn't a good idea for my kid to do, and I want them to take serious A-levels, and my mum and dad were never like that, so I have them to thank for everything. Yeah.
That's interesting you said kind of about the negative influences. Was there ever anyone who kind of said, oh Jodie, don't do that, or dissuaded you from it kind of?
Yeah, my grandparents. Totally old school. They were like, this is a really bad idea. Definitely when I wanted to be a pop star, they were like, maybe you should try and do something a little less far-fetched. But they're really supportive now, and they love coming to see me in all the shows, so it's all turned out for the best, thank God.
Yeah. Everything went according to plan. So And then talking about shows, we're going to kind of segue on to more Heather's questions. So the first question is, how did you get into the character of Heather Chandler?
Do you know what, guys? I'm so sorry if you can hear me eating my sausages and beans right now. I just have no other time to fit dinner in tonight unless I eat at midnight. So I found it quite a struggle actually in rehearsals. I remember second guessing myself because I'm actually quite I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
And so like I second guess everything and worry that people like me. And in rehearsals, obviously these are big, amazing characterful people. I do have a big personality, but sometimes I kind of push it to
around
kind of
new
fit.
people. Yeah.
And then suddenly I was pushing Carrie Hope Fletcher around. And I remember, like, every time we finished the scene, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But in the end, by the time we were in the run of it, I just had that button that I switched. And because she's so far away from me, it's
such a switch. Yeah, it's so intense.
That's sometimes easier to play than someone who's quite close to you. I think that as soon as you're off the wing, bang, back to me. But as soon as I was on that stage, I was that mythic bitch.
Split personalities.
Yeah, so I didn't really prep to get in. I just knew that was a switch, and it was such a big switch. It was easier to find.
Yeah. And was there a lot of pressure considering the off-Broadway production in 2014 and the height that got to? There was kind of like looming over you all the time.
Yeah, we received so much stick on YouTube all the time for not being like the Broadway cast, and for not looking like the Broadway cast, and for not having the same choreography as the Broadway cast. But like, in the end, people accepted us and just accepted that we would be different. And that's good, surely, that we didn't try to be the exact same. But yeah, sometimes it got, you take it to the heart, don't you? But I think we got used to it the more it happened, and focused more on the positive. So it was okay in the end. But yeah, we did get some for sure.
Yeah. Well, they were both fantastic shows, and it was kind of weird to say this version's better than this version because it's the same basis.
Exactly. And they were different versions, and every character was played so differently, I think. I did actually take a lot of inspiration from Jessica's. It wasn't Jess, actually. It's the understudy, really bad. I don't know her name, but I watched the bootleg because I didn't really know, and that's really naughty. People don't watch bootlegs. It's bad. But I did. I watched the bootleg, and I remember being at Liam's parents' house actually watching it because I was in for it, and Liam had done the workshop for it. So he was like, it's mental, the world of it, it's crazy. And so I kind of was really late to the party. So I was like catching up as I was doing my self-tape. Forehead is like having a look at what is it about. And it was just, I was like, I see why, because everyone was like, you need to play Heather Chandler. Well, I know it's not that I'm like her, it's just that people know that that's kind of, I don't know, that the kind of character that I can pull off. Do you know what I mean?
Casting
type. Yeah. And so, so I remember watching the bootleg and took a lot of inspiration from the incredible actress who was covering Jess playing Chandler, because she's the one in the bootleg. It's actually not Jessica.
Right,
yeah. And then I changed up a lot with the dead Chandler. I made her way more goofy and ridiculous and just out there, and that was a bit of Jodie going in there, I think.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's good to put your own spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your top 3 highlights of Heather's in the West End?
There's one that I always remember. There's a line that Jamie Moscato, aka JD, says. She was reading the bell jar. He said gel bar. No, yeah, he said gel bar. He was just so ridiculous.
Instead.
He was just so in character, and I was meant to be dead on the floor, and I was like a dead corpse, like laughing. And the whole audience got the giggles because Carrie got the giggles. It was just us two on stage, and I just could not keep my body still, and I was meant to be dead from the trampoline. It was just so funny. West End Live was a great experience, and I think first ever opening night, can't decide between them, but probably first opening night in the other Palace and the opening night on the West End as well. They have to take their place together.
So many highlights, I know.
Mm-hmm.
So one last question on Heather's is, what would be your advice to anyone playing Heather Chandler in future productions?
How do I say this? Yes, give it everything, but remember that Chandler doesn't have to exert too much because things just come to her, and that is her power.
Yeah.
So it's about having that gravitas and finding that inner fire and that inner power rather than asking the audience for your attention. You just have it, and you just have to have that belief and that confidence, because that character doesn't ask for things, they just come to her.
It's the depth instead of the kind of just bossy all the time. I'm in charge.
Yeah. And she's very still.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very still human. she doesn't have to move a lot. That's why she's got her minions to do it all for her. Obviously, she gives it some in candy store.
Yeah.
But her movement should be seductive, like Medusa. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of segue on now quickly to more questions about sex.
Oh, how did I guess?
So what was that experience like, playing a version of a historical character instead of a completely fictional character?
Well, actually, the most interesting bit of the process was the rehearsals, because we had to, before we started, do so much research on Henry VIII's wives. And obviously, we all know a bit from GCSE.
Yeah.
But not in depth.
Horrible
and I learned
history.
so much. Yeah, horrible histories. I learned so much about them, and particularly the you know how tragic Howard's story is. Like, it's probably the most tragic, really. I mean, it is. Nobody even has, her birth certificate isn't even like found or even exists, and so nobody knows how young she actually was, but they believe around 19 years of age when she was beheaded. And she just, was treated so awfully by men and didn't have a choice back then. Of course she didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a lot of, it's hard because obviously six plays against the tragedy quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of responsibility to really project the realness and the reality of the character and the truth of her, but also, when you got into the rehearsals and the sassiness and how fierce she is and how fearless she comes across, until obviously we have that twist at the end of All You Want to Do. So it was quite interesting because we weren't playing. The thing that's interesting about Six is Toby and Lucy decided that they wanted it to be an extended version of yourself. So a heightened version of me. And I found that really hard. I was like, whoa, what is an extended version? I never play me on stage. So like just
that
being
strange,
me. And I think I kind of caricature her a little bit sassy, and she's the youngest one and a bit bubbly and that kind of bubblegum princess. I found it really hard to do an extended version of myself, for sure. That was a challenge. So that's been a different prospect of this job compared to the others.
It's like kind of trying to find the balance between the fun spin that is put on it, but also the kind of tragic backstory behind it. Yeah,
exactly. It's educational, and you have to drive that truth of the education to the audience, but at the same time making them feel like they're at a Girls Aloud concert.
Yeah.
Well, that's a terrible group. What's a good group to say? Little Mix.
There we go. So the last question about kind of shows and stuff is, what would be your favorite song from Heathers and your favorite song from Six?
Okay, my favorite song from Heathers is Meant to Be Yours. I just stood at the back as a dead person doing, the ensemble singing with it, which should never be taken lightly. Ensemble are the backbone of cast, and I have been in many. And I was kind of stood at the back with the two dead boys. So that was kind of cool for Heathers for me. In the beginning, I was in a trio with the two girls, and in the end, I was in the trio with the two boys.
You guys,
so I loved that. Yeah, it was great. And we just kind of stood there looking evil with our croquet palettes. But Jamie singing that song and the harmonies in it, and just the fierceness and how much the harmony writing in that song is so clever.
Yeah.
The way it builds, the crescendo, the evilness, that's my favorite one. And in Six, I love you, boy, in every single way. That one.
There we go. So we're going to kind of move on now to more about the current situation that everybody's on.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I'm not stuck in the house. What? But the first question is, have you noticed any kind of unexpected benefits of isolation?
Yes, I have. For me personally, I've got to oddly grow my business much bigger than it was before isolation, because we've taken it online and it seemed to have blown up. So I'm getting to focus on that more. I'm getting to do a bit more piano practice. I'd actually love a bit more personal time to do. My plan was, when it started, was to come out of this as speaking fluent Spanish and being like grade 8 on piano, and neither of those things are going to be achieved because I've been so busy and unexpectedly very busy. And also another personal thing, becoming a carer.
Yeah.
For people, I look after two girls. One has severe autism and the other has Down syndrome, and it has opened my eyes to so many things that I was doing so wrong in my life and things that I miss every day of how wonderful they are, how lucky I am, how ignorant we can all be, us in quotation marks, normal humans, which that's not a thing. Nobody is normal. That's just a stupid word. And it's just taught me a lot about myself and how I should treat others and perceive others, and not to judge people by the way that they look. And I've got 2 new best friends that I look after. So so a lot, good things.
Oh, it's great that you're still able to do that even in these circumstances.
Oh yeah, I mean, I probably would never have taken on a caring job if this hadn't happened. So, for me, I'm like, I think we should all try and focus on things that we would never have done or never have got to do if lockdown hadn't happened, even if that means taking some chill time just to reevaluate things. Like, we have to find the positives, because it's such a negative situation that we must try and find the positives. Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had a time where we can get stuff done and be creative, but also chill and relax at the same time.
Yeah. Do you remember all those times when we're like, oh, if only I had the time. Well, now, honey, you got the time.
That time is now. Exactly.
Yeah, literally.
So what have you been kind of doing to kind of keep yourself sane? I know you've been very busy, but
lots of Zooms, which we are on right now. Thank God for Zoom. Lots of Zooms with friends, quizzes, just to kind of make you feel like, on a Friday and Saturday night. Actually, recently I've been working every Friday and Saturday night on night shifts. But I know that when I am here, Liam does a quiz every Friday and Saturday night and has a few drinks and just pretends like he's on a normal night.
It's more release.
It's his release, as he's saying in the background.
Just kicks back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I get to join in if I'm back early enough from a shift, or or actually quite late and they're still going. I just kind of join in. And I think things like that, adapting. Yeah. Just rather than being frustrated about not being able to go out on a night out with your friends or get a coffee, just adapt, get Zoom up and both have a coffee together and have a chat. And it might not be in the flesh, but you're still present with each other. You've got each other's attention. So I think that's been the best thing, is just adapting and just finding ways to feel a bit normal. Definitely getting up early. Yeah. I don't stay in bed at all. Liam hates that, but I don't stay in bed. I'll be up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock every morning. Some people I know do earlier. And I will always try to exercise first thing and just, get showered, put clothes on. Like I can't be dealing with the pajamas in bed thing. And that's fine for some people and maybe once in a while. But I think if people are doing that every day,
it kind of gets you stuck in a rut.
Yeah, you'll be in a bit of a downward spiral. So I think just adapting and finding normality in that way helps the most.
And that's what some people are saying as well. It's not really social distancing. It's more physical distancing.
Yeah.
Because you can still keep connected all the time, even stuck in the house.
God, some friends I speak to more now than I did before. It's mental.
I know. And the last question we have for you today, because we know you're very, very busy. The last question is, do you have any advice for anyone that would be struggling with the lockdown, or because it can affect people's mental health very easily and very badly?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one actually. And most interestingly, I think people will discover, hopefully they don't, but I think that's something that may be discovered is mental health may deteriorate when we actually come out of this and we're told that we can go back to normality. Yeah. Because things have changed so much that for me personally, I know I'm going to definitely feel anxious. I already feel quite anxious in social situations, that I'm going to say the wrong thing or blah, blah. So God only knows how I'm going to cope with that now. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the same boat. So I think currently, just every time you feel down about it or feel a bit suffocated, just remember how lucky we are that we are not the one in an IT unit in the hospital. Exactly, and also to remind yourself that is why you're inside. Because I can imagine there are a lot of people who, this past weekend with Boris's lovely speech, that were hoping that it would be over. And I actually think that's a little bit silly because we're just not ready for that yet. And we've got to put lives first.
It's going to be that's
a
long haul. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just got to remind ourselves that we're saving lives, and you know, and I'm sure there are some people like very frustrated who haven't had a personal hit of coronavirus. Well, you just have to imagine if it was your nan or your granddad or even your mum, your dad, like
Exactly,
you know, and so that's just the way to remind yourself. Yes, it sucks, but hey, I've got to take the man up hill and get on with this. And I think make a list of things you want to achieve. Keep proactive and productive, and also remember that it's okay to sit and eat cake in front of the TV if you need to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And just stay connected with people for sure, and talk about how you're feeling. Don't lock it inside ever. Just talk about it.
It's bad enough yourself being locked inside, never mind locking stuff inside.
Absolutely. Get it out there, speak about it. People will listen, even if you don't think they will. They want to listen.
Exactly. Well, that just does us for all the questions, and we know you've acknowledged them here at 8. So that's the end of this episode. A big thank you to Miss Jodie Steele for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, and bye.
Bye.